Now, so if I'm correct, you've completed a short description of your challenge and included a how might we question in that. So you would have spent some time as a group coming up with that and you've written it down. Now we're going to get into action. So for week for week 2 of the design process, we're going to focus on understanding the ecosystem of your challenge. I'm going to try to explain what I mean by ecosystem for a minute. If you go back to your school days as a kid, you might remember this image from biology class, for example, where it explained that you have various organisms within an ecosystem and these organisms affect each other, right? Snap back to now, within a business or within a project that you're developing, you are also within an ecosystem, right? And the challenge that you have is also within an ecosystem. That ecosystem is made out of various conditions and individuals and organizations. Now, we're going to work on the logic in Diamond 1 that if you can get a better understanding of that ecosystem, that you will be better suited to come up with good solutions to your challenge. In order for you to analyze your ecosystem, though, it's important that we have a tool to do that. There's a really good article written by Bloom and Dees about cultivating your ecosystem. This is written for the social enterprise sector, actually, but it's very relevant to anyone trying to work on within a specific ecosystem. And Bloom and Dees differentiate between 2 layers of factors that you might want to consider when analyzing your ecosystem: the environmental conditions and the players. The environmental conditions are things like maybe a political trend that's relevant to your challenge, or a social cultural trend that's going on that's affecting your challenge, or maybe a technological trend that's happening that affects your challenge. Whereas on the players side, we're essentially looking at different stakeholders that are part of your challenge. So on the one hand, we might want to look at the problem makers, the people or the individuals or the organizations that are causing the problem. What can we learn about them? But also the allies. So who is already working on solving this problem, right? If we know who's already solving the problem, maybe we can better position ourselves in the future to solve the problem and not replicate a solution that already exists. But maybe we can also complement a solution that already exists. And if we don't know what's out there, then it's much harder to position ourselves effectively. So there's a really good article on this. I urge you to read that. And your next task is to start to analyze your ecosystem. You can use Bloom and Dees factors, the different environmental conditions and the players, as a bit of a structure of what you might want to look for. Don't shy away from the ones that are harder to find. Look for them, and try to find a good mix between field and desk research. So my strong suggestion is, when you're investigating your ecosystem, try to look at desk research first to identify different factors, to identify different players. And once you've identified them, try to do a bit of field research to dig deeper and learn about them. And what I mean by learn about them is, okay, so you've identified that let's say there's this nonprofit organization that's also involved in tackling your challenge. Maybe you can give them a call and ask them, how's it been for you? Do you have any advice on key areas within the challenge that we could still focus on? Do you have any tips on other organizations that we could get in touch with? So try to take that step. I know it's difficult during COVID, especially, to get in touch with people, but try to take that step of getting extra information through a form of field research, right? You can also do a short interview. You could do a short survey. If you find, for example, a Facebook group that's relevant to your challenge, you could post a survey there to find out some information from the individuals in that group. Be creative with how you find information. To help you to collect this information in one place, we've created an Excel template that allows you to very structurally collect data about different environmental conditions and players. So I'm going to post a link of that in the next slide. You can use that template as a group to collectively track all the data that you've collected. And that should give you a really good understanding of your ecosystem. Now, note, if you look at the Excel, in the fourth column, I've actually included a column called How is this information useful for your challenge? And what I want you to do there, and this is a very crucial column, I don't want you to skip this column. When you've identified a piece of data, I want you to consider why it's useful for you. What does it tell you about your challenge? But even more so, how could you use that information to come up with a solution potentially? Think about that. Maybe jot some notes down. And then when you go into Diamond 2, you'll be much better prepared and much better equipped to really start coming up with solutions to specific elements of your challenge.